is going to be fantastic. Fantastic. Okay, well, I'm Drew Wash. This is Domain to Profit, and this is week 52. Week 52. So a full year of coming to you live to talk about domain names, but not so much as domain names. Talking more about how domain names can be developed to create a life, create a new identity, in fact. And that's the exciting thing is today, for the first time ever, I have a guest. I'm going to bring, I have a guest, and it's a perfect example of how a domain name can actually create something new for you, a new life, a new identity, a lifestyle. It can transform everything about you, or it can just create the income and be something cool to do, which we'll find out more because today I have with me Peter Askew, and he is going to be joining me here in a little bit. It's going to be worth your time. Out of all the shows I've ever done, I'm most excited about this, which also makes me most nervous about the technology because I don't want any of those little Drew bugs to get in the way of what can be fantastic, life-changing content. So stick with me. We're going to get started. So now is the time to like the video, subscribe, and say hi in the chat because I'll be talking to you on the other side. It's Domain to Profit.
From domain to profit, from a .com to a business idea. Take a domain name, develop an income from domain to profit. We'll show you how. Domain to profit, from domain to profit. Join Drew Wash and get started right now.
Okay, well, I see we got Lee back here. Good evening and good afternoon, Jake, and we are indeed live, possibly only a few seconds late, but bear with me on that. And awesome to have you here with us, Justin. Glad to have you live. First time caller, long time listener. I love it. I love it. Very much appreciate you being here. Kevin, you as well. I'm not sure if everybody here is a big Peter, the Onion Man fan, or if you've been joining me, but Kevin, thanks for being here. Also got Mario back. Thanks for joining us. And Mario, if I'm not mistaken, I think I was checking out your YouTube channel. He does some guitar and some music, custom stuff. Was very cool. Edward with us as well, and Frank, I believe. Hi guys. Yes, excellent. Thank you so much for everybody being with us. And we also have with us for the first time live via Zoom from Georgia, our guest, which is Peter Askew, which I'm going to be bringing him on in just one moment. So thank you for being with us. Here's what we have planned for today. I'm going to bring Peter on. We're going to talk about domain names, domain development, the role of them. But then we're going to do what we always do here live. We're going to be looking, Peter and I together, going to be looking through expired domains. This week's domain names, you're going to get not just my perspective, but Peter's perspective. And all the domain names that we talk about each week are going to be available this week. So literally this live show, you may find an idea and a domain name that you could participate in the auction, buy that domain name, change your life. So I know that it is all worth it. And Peter, I am bringing you on, my man. So here we go. Please, everything work. Peter, thanks for being with me. I got to unmute you.
Hey. Uh-oh.
There we go.
Unmute me. I'm good.
Yes. I remembered to
Thank you for
unmute
having me.
myself. It's and I will move you over there. Okay. So everything here is done on the fly. Glad that things are mostly, I had to restart like 3 times before the show, Peter. I was freaking out. XSplit had an update. Windows had an update. You're a good luck charm. So
Yeah.
I should have introed you better, bringing you up here. So now that you're on the screen, I'm going to intro you a little bit. Peter is the Onion Man, and it's not just a self-declared name. Peter actually runs VidaliaOnions.com, and we're going to be talking about how he got the domain name, how he built this business. But he has taken what is known to be one of the highlights of all of the state of Georgia, which is Vidalia Onions, and he got the .com of it, and now he literally sells onions on the internet. So he's a true rock star in the domain development world, and you hear me refer to him often, especially when it comes to selling a product on the internet, because that's not my forte. But Peter has, well, he's done great stuff. So, Peter, thanks for being here. So tell us, to start with, Vidalia Onions. Tell us what domains did you have before it? Were you doing domain development before you got your kind of marquee domain?
Yeah, I was following in your footsteps, doing market. Well, I still do marketplace directory, but I had one of my first deep dives was that duderanch.com. I don't know if I've discussed it with you that often, but identical to, or at least very similar to the models that you build. Create a marketplace, try to bring buyers and sellers together. I didn't necessarily want to box anything up and ship anything out. I just wanted to share information and drive leads to the dude ranchers who offer typically summertime vacations to families or just traveling couples. And that was another expiring domain name back in 2009. I saved up, well, I didn't really, actually, I didn't have the cash at the time. I put it on a credit card, but I spent about 18,000 to buy duderanch.com.
Holy moly.
And it was, I think I was bidding against Michael Birkins. I remember his username in there. There was another Vaxis, I believe was Vertical Axis, was another big bidder back in those days. And
bumped up against him a couple times.
Yeah, and it was the first time where I had a domain where in my head, I had refused to give up on that domain. I probably would have bid it up to $40,000 or $50,000 because I really wanted to enter that category. It seemed like an exceptionally fun category to dip my toes in. And it leaned on some of my strengths from SEO or paid search and analytics. And just, I'm a sucker for travel out west, and especially out in the Rockies. And that's primarily where all the dude ranches are. So go ahead.
Let me just ask, because what came first, the domain or the desire to build something? Were you looking for other domains in that space, or?
Oh yeah, so I roughly started dipping my toe into the domain name world around 2005, 2006, and tried to teach, well, it was essentially just teaching myself all the moving parts. Where would I find some sort of, not success, well, mainly I was trying to educate myself on how the domain name world worked. Either from buying to try and buy and flip a name, buy and park, because back in those days, you could still make a significant income by just buying and parking over at Cedo or any of the other domain parking companies. Or, the lemming at that time still was buy and develop. Everyone, a lot of the domainers just want nice, easy money, whether it's traffic from parking or flipping, and which is a challenging game. So I tried all three. So I tried to buy some and try to flip them. Was not very good at that. I'd buy one I did a tweet maybe a month ago where I said, I'm the king of buying a domain for $10,000 and selling it years later for $10,124. So I would do that. I would buy 2 domains for $20,000, and then I would barely be able to resell them 3 or 4 years down the road for $20,000 again. And so, I tried that avenue. I found it sort of boring. And so, and I wasn't really good at it. So I was like, well, let me try the parking side. Let me try to find domains that have existing traffic. Maybe I can just park them. And I found that boring as well. But then when I'd cherry pick smaller domains, like I acquired AppalachianTrail.com,
wow.
direct from the guy. I emailed him relentlessly, and he eventually replied to me, and I bought it for $3,000 and built like a little 6-page site, really simple. Here's the map. Here's he had some content on the site as well. So I just cleaned it up within a new WordPress theme, and then monetized it through AdSense. And it was throwing me a good $5-10 a day. And it started ranking really well for the term Appalachian Trail. I was like, well, gosh, this is kind of fun and fascinating. And at that point, I was not married yet and did not have kids, so I was seriously considering just packing up some stuff and going on a hike through the whole
But
Appalachian Trail.
when I
Um,
got engaged, I before I was married, I probably found that site when you had it,
How
and it was
funny.
a requirement. When I proposed to my wife, I was like, just so you know, I
Yeah.
will do the Appalachian Trail as at some point. You have to be okay with me either going off on my own or joining me on it. She agreed to join me. We've never done it, but what a
Yeah.
fantastic domain. Do so out of your domains
Mhm.
nowadays. Do you look for buying from individuals still, or are you mostly an auction buyer?
I'm primarily an auction buyer. Um, but recently I've been buying direct some, but I became quite addicted with the auction process because of the deal flow that comes through. Just you have so many domains expiring every single day. Buying direct from an end user was very time consuming for me. So I was spending a lot of time in outreach trying to get a response back. And even if I got a response back, I wasn't sure what the price was going to be. Uh, but then when I discovered expiring, I was like, oh boy! And now I have 50 to 100,000 every single day that I get to scrub through and find some that have potential, and use the names as inspiration for the businesses. Um, so I essentially for Appalachian Trail had an offer, sold it for roughly 30,000, used that money to buy Dude Ranch, and then developed it out from the profit that I sold Appalachian Trail for. Then developed it out and got a reoccurring revenue, basically revenue stream from Dude Ranch that allowed me to quit my day job, and then I could focus on it. Um, yeah, but these days definitely primarily expiration, but some of these jobs domains, like I bought Park City Jobs direct from another user, Telluride Jobs, which I'm gonna spitball to see if I can build those out as
So
mini job boards for those small cities.
jobs board. Dude Ranches, which is a jobs board, or was
No,
a jobs board, correct?
oh no, that was a directory of Dude Ranch Vacations.
Okay. Oh well,
So it's
ranch. I'm thinking of ranch work.
Ranch Work, correct.
Okay.
Ranch Work is a job board I have as well. That's
So you
correct.
have Vidalia Onions, which you sell onions on the internet. You
Correct.
have Ranch Work as a jobs board.
Correct.
Created, I don't know if you sold it yet, but cooljobs.com as well, right?
Haven't sold it.
Okay.
Haven't sold it yet. I'm looking for a buyer. I'm not sure if that's going to pivot or not, or change it to something different. But it gets a crazy amount of traffic, so I'm trying to figure out a way to either shepherd that site along, or find the right person to keep managing that site. But yeah, still have that site as well. Correct.
So in the world of money wise, what like Vidalia Onions here, your jobs boards way down. Like how do you rank these things? Maybe rank them um, just general revenue, but also ease of revenue, because I know you work hard
Oh
for
gosh.
Vidalia Onions. So
Yeah, the margins are it's it is not an easy business to run. It just happens to be something that I think I was tailor made to run and create and operate. Um, Ranch Work on the information, directory marketplace and job boards are wonderful because you're essentially sharing information. There's nothing to box up and ship out. There's no customer, as well as light customer service. I mean, I'm shipping a physical product, a physical, seasonal, perishable vegetable, um, and it hands down, it's the most difficult, but it's the most rewarding, and gives me a lot of fulfillment to run that project and really help an American owned and operated, I mean, a small business that's owned by Aries and his wife. And
yeah,
to help
that's
them
good
from a
stuff.
web perspective gives me, and the fact that I can just go down there and hang out at the farm uh, whenever Aries is down there and he has some spare time, I'll pop down and take videos, or hang out in the packing shed, or just watch the entire grow process. It's a fascinating process for me to learn, and I'm constantly learning it.
So that's one of the cool things that I really enjoy about domains in general, and I love doing it with some of the domains that we've done, which is uh, you know the fact that when we can develop out these domain names, a lot of times it's direct to these small businesses, direct to the
Yeah,
farm, direct to the
yeah,
local businesses that it's hard for us to get involved in the internet stuff, but for them, it would be such a tangent from their normal business that it's like I'm guessing Aries, which is the direct to farmer, the farmer
In my
for
partner,
Vidalia
correct?
Onions.
Yeah, yeah.
Did he have a website even before?
No. Yeah, that's a great question. He did not. So that was one of my pitches when I originally met him. I was like, hey, absolute worst case scenario, I'll build you a site for free. So I'm going to build you a site, and then I'll have all your photos. I'll say at the time their name was M&T, and then he bought the farm about a year and a half ago, and then changed the name to A&M Farms. But the pitch was, hey, listen, worst case scenario, I'll build you a free site, and we get to use VidaliaOnions.com. And maybe if farm to door doesn't work, maybe there's an avenue for something else. Maybe we use it for a channel for commercial stuff if we need to promote you to Publix or Vaughn's or any of these other big grocery store chains. But the first thing we can test is farm to door to see if there's any pain point out there. And it was an instant. We touched a nerve early. And I was even originally the site just had an email sign up box. And so it was signing up people before we even had a for sale page. So I was building an email list first, and then I sent out that our season had begun, or at least we were accepting pre-orders. This is for our first season, and I still followed the same method. But we sent out an email saying, hey, we are officially accepting orders for our 2014-15 season. If you want to get an order in now, you'll be placed at the front of the line when our season officially begins, and we'll get your box out to you. But yeah, that was one of my pitches to him.
So one of the things that I get most or hear most often when people are asking about developing is kind of like finding the customers. Aries being probably your first customer. How many farms did you go to? Was he the first? Did he buy in? How much legwork did you get finding that, finding the farm piece of it?
So one of the original things I did was I cold called there's a Vidalia Onion committee that operates down in Vidalia that represents all the Vidalia farmers. So I reached out to them just to make sure that I always mention that I wanted to make sure they knew I was one of the good guys. I wasn't trying to represent the industry in an incorrect way. And I almost wanted to get their blessing because they protect that name. And they actually have a federal marketing order to protect the name, since you're only allowed to grow that onion in Georgia and call it a Vidalia if it's grown in Georgia within this certain area in South Georgia. So I wanted to get their blessing to start, and then to pitch this idea to see if they mirrored the same idea that I had, whether they felt there was some sort of opportunity within farm to door. And they did. They immediately mentioned that, yes, they were calling it mail order when I went down there originally. Yes, mail order has a lot of opportunity. Not a lot of farmers are concentrating on it because they don't want to deal with the customer side. They want to do the 50,000 pound order that they'll send to Kroger and Publix and any grocery store around. And at that point, I was like, okay, I don't know if you're just telling me what I want to hear, but I will keep moving forward. And to your point, I needed their help to introduce me to the farmers, because I would have gotten no traction if I would have tried to email the farmers.
Knock on doors.
Or even knocking on the door. I'd seem like a strange guy, and especially I'm a Georgia boy, but I was coming from Atlanta, so I almost needed them to come with me and say, hey, this is Peter. He owns this domain, and he wants to help from a technology web perspective from a farm to door. So I needed them to fulfill for me at the farm and ship, because I couldn't bring the onions up here to Atlanta. So I needed them to fulfill and ship direct from the farm. So I met about 4 or 5 farmers along the way, met brokers. I didn't want to deal with a broker after I kind of chewed on that. I wanted to have a direct farm. I wanted to be a farm, essentially. And so I met a few farms. One farm didn't have storage. So a lot of the Vidalia, so the onions we're shipping right now are coming out of essentially just climate controlled storage. We'll harvest in April, and then we'll begin immediately shipping, and then we'll ship out of cold storage for the remainder of the summer, June and July. Mm-hmm. So was trying to find somebody who had cold storage, who I could at least pull from cold storage so we could continue to ship throughout the entire summer, but who could fulfill and box, and where UPS could back up to our packing house shed. And when I met Aries, he got it immediately. He has a marketing background, so he understood. He got it. He was like, okay, yeah. A very short conversation. Handshake deal when we started. It was just, hey, how do we get this to work? Okay. And I told him, I will get the orders, I'll process them, I'll run the credit card transaction. And this is before we kind of came under the wing of the farm, because we're under the wing of the farm now. And then at the first year, I mean, this is how much we spitballed it together. We shared a Google spreadsheet, and I was manually getting the orders. And then I go into a Google spreadsheet, enter all the information, first name, last name, shipping address, zip, phone, and then I would save it. I'd ping the farm and say, the spreadsheet's been updated. You can go in. And so they would go in and manually type in UPS orders into their UPS terminal. They had a small computer there, so they could type in orders into their UPS terminal and then manually print out each label. So that's how we did it for the first season. That was the only time we did that way. And then we eventually moved over to Shopify, plugged into ShipStation.
I was going to ask you if you use Shopify. So you do use Shopify?
Yeah, Shopify for e-commerce, WordPress for the front end of the site, and then ShipStation for the shipping management.
Boom. So let me kind of, I'm gonna run down some summary real quick of some of the things I just heard, because I feel like all too often everybody that's with me weekly, you know, we all get paralysis in our planning, and we think we need to figure it all out and get all of our systems perfect before we ever launch. And you heard it with what Peter was saying. He had the domain name, did the legwork to find and make sure that he had a product to sell, and then they figured it out. Like they you know, put in those a Google spreadsheet. They just did the work necessarily and knew that they can improve. In startup world, it's a lean business world. It's, you know, minimum viable product. What can you do to the minimum way to provide value to your customer? It sounds exactly what you did with Vidalia Onions, which, I mean, so cool. I assume nowadays with Shopify and WordPress and all your different, your systems come together a lot. They're a lot cleaner. They're far from what they were year one, right?
Oh my gosh, it's almost like I have a team. I mean, I'm so thankful for both of those, for Shopify and ShipStation. It makes my job, I can do the job of about 5 to 6 people just by leaning on those two applications, because they can accept orders. And then especially ShipStation, I can manage all these thousands of boxes that we now ship out each year, to ensure that they're delivered on time, that the purchaser hasn't accidentally input a PO box, because UPS doesn't ship PO boxes. If they need to change an address mid shipment, and UPS will allow you to do that, it'll charge you like $20 or so to change the address while it's in transit, small things like that. But another thing, just to touch on when we first started, so I was doing that shared spreadsheet, and I used an e-commerce platform. I found one called Big Cartel, really friendly to small builders. You can sell under 5 products for free on Big Cartel. So I found Big Cartel. I was like, sweet, I don't even have to pay for an e-commerce platform.
Product wise, are you saying like 5 SKUs or
5? 5 products, I guess, essentially 5 SKUs. So to this day, I still only sell 4 products: a 5-pound box, 10-pound box, 25-pound box, and a 40-pound box. That's it, 4 products. So I was like, sweet, just throw it over there. I got a free e-commerce. They didn't even take a percentage of my sale. I was able to sell. So I ran the first year on Big Cartel. They were a big help, but they had small little tweaks. Their e-commerce didn't allow for gifts. So you know, say you were sending me an order, you would have to type in my shipping information, but then plug in your billing information. They didn't allow for gifts, at least at that time. They may have added this since then. And so it was funny. It was fascinating to see, Drew. My customers would figure it out. They would just they would type in their shipping address, and then there was a comment box. And then they were going into the comment box saying, "Hey, Peter, we don't want this to go to us. Make sure this box goes to this address." I was like, "Oh crap! Okay, that I forgot. I didn't realize that they didn't have a gift option." I was like, "Okay,
Oh, yeah.
that's option number one. I need to figure out whoever I go to next has a gift option because I didn't realize people will be buying these as gifts." That seems to be pretty important. So as the first season was going along, I was actively writing like number one, I got to find a system that'll actively push orders from my e-commerce provider into a shipping platform rather than we do that manually. That was the lowest pain point or the highest pain point that we had to
So
fix.
you pretty much started, got things going, and then found the problems, solved the problems. Like it's
Absolutely. And I'm
all starting
fortunate
with
with
the
this
domain.
industry. It all started with the domain, yeah. And so I'm fortunate with this site where we have a downtime since we're seasonal, and we typically wrap up around August. And then from August until April, well, I would say February, because I open up usually pre-orders around February. So in the off season, I'm tinkering on the site, adding, like I relaunched the site under a new, like did a custom WordPress theme, added a whole bunch of fun bells and whistles to the site. I have a farm news section now where I can post updates from the farm, like, Aries bought the farm, so that was a post. Aries was interviewed by Georgia Grown, which is the Department of Agriculture down here in Georgia. So I uploaded the YouTube video as a little news story. So just adding content there versus any of these social networks. I want our site to be the hub of any of the news. If I post a story on our site, then I'll repost the story possibly on any social networks, but I want to be the hub of all of our news, and then I can waterfall it out rather than waterfall, start at Twitter or Facebook or any other network and then go back to our site. I want it to originate from our site first and then waterfall down to any other social network.
100% makes and that's right there. That's in case you are new to e-commerce and just the purpose of a domain name in general. What he's talking about there is all too often we want to use social media, we use Facebook pages and these things. Those are channels, but getting them to your site is the key, and that's exactly what Peter's talking about, and vital. It's why you need a great domain name for your business, even if you run it through different channels. Let me go to a question I have. This may be a little specific, but maybe you have this off the top of your head. Kevin Allen is asking, kind of what percentage or ballpark margin or so of each order is spent on your packaging, which I've seen you have those great custom boxes and stickers and things. Kind of what percentage or amount goes into your packaging of the product that you're selling?
I think we are paying around $1 a box, essentially.
Wow.
So it's not terribly, yeah. And understand with the custom boxes that you're saying, we didn't have those for the first 6 years. We had just a generic Vidalia Onions. We didn't have one that had our logo, our domain name, because we couldn't afford it. It was too expensive. So we just used the generic Vidalia Onions, which are great. They look perfect. And then everyone was, or a few folks would see it like, "Where's your logo on the box? Why don't you put your logo on the box?" Like, son of a bitch, it costs like 50 grand. Like, I'm 50 grand to drop on box. Whenever we get it, I'll drop it on new boxes. I'd love to see the logo on the box. And we still don't have it for the 25 pound and 40. We're going to try to do that in the off season. So our first step was getting it on the 10-pound box, which we did. And I posted some photos recently, I think, on Twitter of just a big stack of boxes that we purchased. And so we still don't have our logo on the 25 and 40 pound box. So I believe we'll be able to accomplish that at the end. So at the end of this season, we'll have those. And then we're going to have the bags. So sometimes we'll have a bag. We have this machine called the Hero Machine, which is like an automated bagging system, GIRO. And so now we can place our logo on the bag. And you may see these at grocery stores, onions in little almost like bags, a little plaid
like
netting. Exactly. Yeah. So you can place our logo. So we're working on adding our logo on the bag. And most on the 5 pound, 10, 25, we put onions in the bag, and then put the bag in the box. The 40 pound box is still loose. That may change when we put those in bags as well. Because you'd be surprised how many people try to break into Vidalia boxes when they're in transit and try to steal some onions out of the box. And the bag, limits that.
I'm just highlighting the theme again. Started with just basic boxes, grew his business, customized it in the packaging. It's just a theme that I feel like it's left out of so many business talks. Is you get started, figure it out, and improve as you go. Why spend 50,000 on a pallet of boxes if you're not even sure people are going to want the onions yet? You know, if the business is even going to work out. No, I mean, people are going to buy the onions because of the box. Like, anyhow, it matters, but it's not what you want to lead with. So I just highlighting that piece. Let me see. I got one more question. Then I want to move on to kind of the phase two, which is let's look at some domain names and talk about some businesses we can develop on them.
Sure.
So unless I'm missing something that I'm not seeing it in the chat, but if there's a question on that is plaguing you in the chat, please let me know. I will ask Peter whether now or we can catch it on the other side. But I want to look at some domain names, see what opportunities are available for all of us. So here is a question from Mario. He is asking for the jobs boards, how do you pitch the first companies? Like, do you even do any pitching actually? So they're seeing your domain and they're kind of like, this makes sense for me.
Yeah. So Ranch Work, I just put the site up, built it on a $60 job board theme when I first started. So I had relationships with a few dude ranchers already. So I would just see jobs from their website onto Ranch Work, and I would, and this is another just aspect of just consistency. I'd show up every single day and post 1 or 2 jobs, 365 days a year, post 1 or 2 jobs, just so I had a consistent amount of actual jobs that were trying to be filled. So after about a month or two, I think less than 2 months, it must have been around a month, of me posting some jobs, I started getting just some organic submissions. And I had a free job. I still have a free job posting submission. It runs a little bit less the amount of time, the duration of time is shorter than a paid listing. And there's a little bit longer wait period. And so if you want a paid listing, it goes live quicker and it stays, the duration is longer on the website. And so I started getting some free job submissions, which were wonderful. So I would go in and curate to make sure that they were legitimate or at least legitimate and on point for the site. Because if they were trying to fill a position at a hotel in downtown Denver, we wouldn't be the best fit. Although they may feel they had a ranch look and feel, we were exclusively filling for cattle ranches, hunting ranches, even farms, dude ranches, all types of just operating outdoor, typically west of the Mississippi. So at that point, I did 0 outbound. I just started getting organic submissions in, and then started fulfilling those. And then there was a point where I was seeding myself, and then organic submissions started coming in, and then I didn't have to seed anymore. And then I was getting enough free and paid job submissions to consistently have maybe 10 or 15 free jobs in the free job queue.
So by seeding, were you finding those on other sites and then putting them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Because I get that question pretty frequently too, is like, do you add content yourself? So you were grabbing some content, getting it out there.
And I link back to the originating, because it's important. I didn't want to just screen scrape and just duplicate content. I always gave a link back, a full follow link back to the originating site.
Yeah. Because you got the freaking domain. You got the domain. Like, you got the advantage once people find it. So
I always wanted ranch jobs, and then I was able to get it when COVID hit. Because I love the term plus jobs, and I just I inherited and eventually bought Ranch Work, which is still another great name, because you almost had a ranch, your work, and it's not job seems more corporate, but it's how people search. And one of my number one, I call it an advertising channel, is that domain name. I get around 70 or 100 visits a month, people just typing in ranchjobs.com and adding .com to the end. Because if they're looking for a ranch job, they will type it in and add .com, and then I do a redirect and have some of the Google tracking parameters on there just so I can see how many visits I get each month. And it's one of my best investments. I spent $5,000 on it at the beginning of COVID. One of my
So
best investments.
you're hitting on a question from Edward Miller, who asked, are you doing what do you do for advertising or mostly organic search results to this point? It sounds like very much the domain name and some patience and some legwork.
It's funny, the growth I've seen. So ranch work, I'm generating around $5,000 a month in revenue right now from Stripe payments, PayPal, and a little bit of AdSense. And the growth I saw, I was this time last year, I was at about maybe 2,500 a month. All my growth came from paper advertising in 2 periodicals within the ranching industry. I've another contact, another domainer who buys and builds. He owns the domain cattletags.com. And I met him at right before COVID, the last NamesCon. And so I pinged him at dinner one night and said, hey, what publications? My gut tells me this may be a good channel because a lot of ranchers, they are online. But man, they read magazines and newspapers at their ranch. A lot of times they'll have crummy cell signal or a crummy internet connection. So he suggested 2 publications, Progressive Cattle and Working Ranch Magazine.
So I'll just piggyback on that with an important tip for other domain developers. You got the brand. One of the things that matters for domains and internet businesses is people trust companies when it's not just an internet business. So Peter's doing print publications, and when people see you in print, they trust you more than if you were just a website. And of all the advertising, which we do very little on towing.com, for example, we do some magazine ads still where we run just a little baby classified ad. And I probably it appears right in the back. Like it's hidden amongst all these other ones. We do print advertising, not because of the business it generates, but because advertising and people knowing you other than just a domain name or a website is important to trust. So you see these, I'm just pointing these themes out where you got 2 guys here doing a lot of the same things, which hopefully gives you a path that you can follow when you develop your domains as well.
Yeah, I was stunned at how well those have worked. And so I'm doubling down on more. I'm spending another almost 10 grand to go into the NCBA, the National Cattlemen's, oh gosh, I don't even know what BA, the Business Association, but they have a big publication called the National Cattlemen. It's a big newspaper.
National Cattle Butcher Association.
Butcher, like here's their paper.
Yep.
National Cattlemen.
It's
so I'm going to have a newspaper ad in that. I just did my little insertion order. It's going to come out in August. So I haven't advertised in that one. And that goes out to 45,000 ranches across the United States. So I'm hoping that has a positive impact. But to your point, more just trust and authority, more my name in front of them. And I have the most basic plain Jane ad. It shows my little cow image. And I got my domain name in big block letters, and then like 3 bullet points: 50,000 visits a month, oldest ranching job board, post a job or post a job wanted, and then the domain name again. That's it. It's like that's all I need to show. I'm a job board. I am dedicated to the ranching industry, and I'm better than some VC-backed company that's really expensive. Like Indeed is quite expensive. You can spend upwards of $500 or $1,000 for a job listing, and some of the ranchers can't afford that. So if I can get out there and educate most of them, that helps.
I was going to say print media. The print media that he's doing is specific to his target audience, right? The people that are getting those 45,000 or all those people are a target audience. So the people reading it are going to be people that either be posting the jobs, reviewing the jobs. So the audience matters. And just like our towing magazine, audience matters. So any advertising you do, it's not just a matter of putting a newspaper ad out there or something. Find the niche. You've probably never heard of that publication. I've never heard of it, but the people that read it know it, get it, trust it. And when they see your premium domain name, it just its association and authority, all the things we talk about on here. It's so freaking awesome, Peter. I want to sit here and talk forever, but I also want to look. Let's look some domain names. That sound good?
Sure, sure.
Okay. So let me pull up and do what we always do here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up expireddomains.net, and expireddomains.net is a free website where you can search through marketplace domains that are available uh, at auction. So the previous owner let them expire, and now you have the opportunity to potentially buy this at auction. You'll be competing against guys like me and Peter and many others who value domains, but as Peter shows with his domain names, as hopefully I show with mine, as well as many other companies, domain names matter. So there's a reason why they go for so much frequently. So going to pull up this here. And now look at this dual screen. I love it. I love it. We got two of us. Before I show, so I have a list of some that I've already pulled out. Let's start with let's just go into the GoDaddy expired domains. Oh, my filter's gone. So I'm going to have to set up filters real quick. What the filters allow me to do is out of the hundreds of thousands of domain names, it lets me pull the domains that I know to be most likely the domains that I want to see. And I'm saying that for anyone out there rather than you, Peter. I'm sure that so, okay. And basically I set it up 1 to 3 word English, and then .com only, and then within the next week. So we have quite a few domains that showed up, and I have, if you see these here, you'll see that I have the stars. Those are some of the ones I've pulled out already. So I'll kind of read them off because I don't know if you can see them on my screen. Skillbase.com. Thought it was kind of an interesting domain, not a generic like I would typically go for, but something worth compensating.com. I'm looking for a twinkle in your eye on any of these.
That's a mouthful. Compensating is a mouthful for me.
Yeah. I don't really, it doesn't 100% make sense. One down here that I do like, minimizing. How about that?
What do you build on minimizing?
I don't know. I was kind of thinking like minimalist. It could be kind of a brand. It's a nice single word. Yeah, I love INGs.
Just minimizing your life. Just like the minimalist lifestyle.
Yeah. How you can do it smaller, maybe.
Minimizing. Huh.
So I also I'm not a big fan of it, but I thought it was interesting. Newsaggregator.com.
That's an interesting one. I mean, these RSS feeds have gone through such a weird evolution. I mean, they have this kind of death and rebirth every now and then, and you could create this, maybe an alt RSS feed, and especially if you have a coding background, create some interesting way to aggregate news aggregator.
I'm just not sure if anybody actually searches for news aggregator. I don't even think I could spell aggregator, but I'll try my best.
That's the first negative aspect of my domain. If even I have a hard time spelling it.
So I'm using SpyFu to get an idea, spyfu.com to look at some keyword data. What do you use a tool to look up keyword data? Which one do you prefer?
I just use Google Trends, and then I just compare it against like terms that I'm familiar with. I know the monthly volume of Vidalia Onions relates to that specific term, so I'll just compare it against terms where I already know, and then I don't have to pay a monthly fee because I'm cheap.
Yeah, well, this is what. So I was using SEMrush, and I actually pay them like $200 a month or something. But I found this free version of SpyFu. This is the free version. It gives some great data. So
good. Also, I didn't know they had a free version. Thank you.
Yeah. So this is all free. Like I'm going to end up paying. I've said that for weeks now. But looking at news aggregator, I kind of thought it was too geeky of a word for people to actually search for. But they're estimating 5,900 monthly searches that are likely to be able to click on the keyword, which I find shocking. but
Monthly
news
volume,
aggregator
is that just
apps.
raw? Is monthly volume search volume, or is that expected traffic that you might expect to your site? I
That's what I
wonder.
like about Spy Food. This is it tells you here it's actually based on their formula. So that's
Hmm.
traffic they believe is actually available.
Hmm.
Where, for example, towing.com on SEMrush, they show hundreds of thousands of searches, but realistically, many of them go to the local box, the map search.
Oh,
So
interesting.
when you
Okay.
type it in here, it's estimating what you might actually be able to get.
Hmm.
So instead of showing hundreds of thousands, it shows like 45,000, which is way more accurate.
Hmm.
So that number is like that available. So 5,900 monthly search, there's some good volume around the domain. Uh, I don't know how you would do the news aggregator, the technology piece, but there you go. Like
And
you
I mean,
mentioned,
if
RSS feeds used to be the thing. So
well, they still exist. So if somebody had a light coding background, they could go in and start plugging into or provide a service. They could create an account at News Aggregator. The back end would allow you to plug into specific feeds from your favorite websites, and create your almost like I have a homepage whenever you open up a new browser bar or a new tab or a browser. Um, the homepage could just be this new news aggregation of
yeah.
all the sites that you've pre-selected. Would be interesting.
Well, frequent viewer of the show, Lee, is adding that news aggregators are charging a fortune nowadays. And
Huh.
one that he looked at recently quoted them like 50,000 a year, which he was expecting 50 to $80 a month. So there's a need there. We saw the search
Weird.
volume,
Huh.
and Lee's sharing out some, there's some money to be made there. I'm guessing there's
Interesting.
going to be some bidding for that domain for sure.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I
Okay.
like your other one. I love that. I'm looking at commercial roofers. That's a
Aha. I put that on there because that for some reason it made me think of you. And and here's the beauty of it. So whoever has commercial roofers, they must have had a portfolio of several up. Okay, it is gone.
oh
That's yeah, because there's commercial roofers and there's also commercial flooring. Uh,
oh
so somebody must have had the portfolio of commercial. So unfortunately, it looks like it's gone. Which for anybody
yeah.
watching, when you look at these are expired domains. So the owner that has it must have renewed it, even though it's kind of towards that end. Yeah, I put that on. I told you I found a couple that I thought would be good for you. Here's commercial floor.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, I'm guessing that's gone too. It's likely the same person that owned them both.
Yeah.
Let's find out. Yep. So they must have renewed them both last minute.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Did you have? I have a few on my set that I found. Did you see? Oh, hang on. Let me see when this expires. If it's coming up. I don't know if I have the date. Moldremovers.com.
Mold removers. Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Let's
mold removers. See if that comes up in yours. Or hopefully this wasn't one you're trying to
was it
keep
on
to
GoDaddy?
yourself. Let's see where it is. It may have 9 days. It may be under that, but it's coming. Yeah, GoDaddy. $12 current bid
Okay.
ends on the 20th. Um, and the mold removing into the mold remediation and removing industry is quite big and quite expensive.
Yeah.
So even if the search volume is low, that wouldn't even scare me in the lightest
Yeah.
because mold, like removing mold from a house, is a 5-6 figure price. If you have a house that's overrun with mold, and you could become a mold remover, get a license and start doing it yourself. You could be lead gen for mold removing. Gosh, does that Spy Food show you the average cost per click?
It does. It does. So the is it mover removers plural?
Plural. M O
Okay.
L D R E
So
M O V E R S.
the primary word or the primary
Right.
term is mold removal,
Right.
but there's some good keyword related keywords that I think goes right with mold removers.
Yeah.
Um, so let's see. So as you scroll down, it pulls the data from Google. This is exactly what SEMrush shows, but it's
Yeah.
estimated monthly click or monthly cost per
Cost
click
per
is
click.
$2.31,
Yeah.
and there's 11 advertisers targeting that. So
Yeah.
So there's that could be big. Thanks for sharing that one. I did not see it, but that is definitely one I'm going to have to watch for when that comes up, because those local companies are certainly worth good. And I just Mario, I believe, he said direct consumer directory. Yes, I'm not. Peter may want to start a mold removal business. I just want to help all those mold removal businesses out there get the business and traffic. So
I'll let somebody else. This is a great one for somebody else. I mean, it could just be a tiny side websites. These marketplace directories don't take much, at least to get them off the ground and generate traffic. And if you apply just a little bit of TLC to some of these sites, they can work, and they can start to fly before you're even ready for them to start flying. That one seems like a really good one in a deep industry.
I one of the things I had previously talked about on I think a NamesCon talk I did for a while back was just the idea of you can either pay a bunch of money to do pay-per-click and get traffic, but you can also, if you have a great domain, you can just wait. You can just allow time to bring those people that type it in and check it out. Those can be your primary customers as well. Let me pull this up. Carvinyl.com. I was thinking the people that wrap cars.
Yeah.
So that was I like that one. It's almost more of a brandable type play. That ends in 3 days. Well, 4 days, $25 currently. Guessing to go for the kind of the traditional couple $100, unless somebody gets carried away, of course.
Yeah.
I got a little geeky, but databasedesigner.com.
Yeah, I didn't see that one. That one's interesting. Yeah.
You could either do software, maybe
if you're a freelancer or something,
web tool, or a directory of even the people that do database designing, setting up all the structure and stuff.
Yeah.
So that one, I like that one for sure. I love, if you can turn it into a SaaS product, then that's always a good option as well.
Here, I got one. I don't know if you saw this one. This is more if somebody has a good publishing, or if they enjoy writing, charlestonnews.com.
Okay.
And you could build a local news site for Charleston, South Carolina, and publish news. And heck, you could even just start rolling in tourism information. You get enough traffic to it, and then you could just sell advertising. Heck, you could do it like a Substack. You could charge a monthly fee for somebody to subscribe to your charlestonnews.com website. And maybe you could move there, start attending town halls and court cases, because they allow, and then you just start writing news of what's happening at City Hall, and new businesses that are opening up. You can highlight new businesses.
I just want to get a press pass. Get a press pass and get into some events.
Charleston News.
I'm a charlestonnews.com.
Yes.
And it sounds like it'd be good on a press pass.
Right now.
Nobody would question that.
Charleston News, $20 currently. Oh, and the other one I won't mention. I don't want to step on your toes on domains you're trying to promote. So this one is just from an SEO background. SEOfreelancer.com. Man, if you have an SEO background and you want to do some freelance work, and you want to make sure that everyone knows that you're available for SEO freelance work, SEOfreelancer.com.
And that's a GoDaddy one also?
That's a good, let me see. Hang on.
Man, you are finding
SEO
some good
freelancer.
ones.
Yeah, ends on July 27th. Current bid $32.
Wow. Okay.
SEO freelancer.
Yeah, that's a good one. I love those. Anything you could,
yeah.
Because realistically, I know we've both done SEO in the past. It's like you don't want to spend time on your own SEO because you want to be working on your customer stuff. But if you could have a profile on a website, then maybe there's not that the pain of needing to work on your own site as much. Cash flow generator, I thought that was kind of fun, especially if you have like reoccurring revenue, like maybe it's selling a business plan, a digital product or something. San Diego Beach. I noticed that one. I just don't know how you would monetize
I don't either.
Not to mention those West Coast beaches are all cold. Nobody goes in the water.
don't think I've gotten in the ocean West Coast. I've gotten in the ocean on the East Coast. Have I gotten in the ocean on the? I don't know if I
Yeah,
have.
everybody always comes back and says you can't get in the ocean in the West Coast without a wetsuit because it's too cold. I've never done anything more than sip a toe in it just to say I've went coast to coast. Okay, made it through the first 200, and we're kind of running up on an hour, so I try to keep things right around an hour, which I'm sure uh, we could probably go on for a very long time. Uh, like, in fact, I should say this. I should have mentioned this at the beginning of the show. Uh, you and I had kicked around on Twitter doing some kind of show where we did exactly this, and so I mean, going back to I mean, it was the beginning of last year. We were kind of like, hey, I wonder if we can do this. Wonder if we can do a show. And, so it's very much, I should have mentioned the fact that Peter is very much responsible for kind of like, hey, let's do this. We talked about doing this together. I'd love to do this more frequently together because this has been a blast having you on. And four eyes checking out all these domains is good stuff. We'll have to put together a subscription service so people can just like pay to piggyback our efforts. So that way we can share our the great domains because I try not to hold anything back. I try to share it all, and if they want to outbid me, or if they can outbid me, then so be it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do, there's been at least one time that I've been like, I can't. I'm gonna just brush over this a little bit, although it really wasn't even for me. It was for somebody else that had a domain. Let me ask one more question real quick
Sure.
from Mario, who is asking for lead gen and directories. Is the early growth strategy the same process as job boards? So manual at first, free limited, and then paid postings. Uh, I don't know how to answer that necessarily. The strategy.
What I would suggest. Oh gosh, hang on one sec. Who is the gentleman that is building out? Hang on. Eric Borgos is building out, and he's openly sharing most of this on his blog. He bought yachts.com,
Oh
and he's
yeah,
going through this right now. How does he? How is he navigating those waters of trying to drive leads? And so he's written about it on his blog on how it is chicken egg for him. And where I've found success when I've done lead gen, I initially go to them first because I have the unfair advantage. I have the really good domain name. And I go to them first because there's very little risk for them. I can go to them and say, hey, if I drive you a lead, is there a way we can work together? And if it turns into a paying lead, and there are different ways you can track on how to determine if the lead actually converts into a paying customer. Can we share some of the revenue, and I'll continue driving leads your way? So a lot of times I go to them first, at least get a warm yes from one or two or three people, and then attempt to capture leads, pass them along, see if the relationship works. If it's a little shaky, take a step back, try another partner potentially. It's a little time consuming, but understand other people aren't going to do it. If you take the time to do it, chances are no one else is taking the time to actually drive them leads. Because I was thinking, when I put myself into a small business person's shoes, would I like to have somebody come off the streets and say, hey, can I give you free leads? And if you're paying, what would you be willing to spend to capture a new lead? Well, I would spend $50 to acquire a new lead. Well, okay, if I can capture leads at $70 and they pay me $50 is the moving point, then I could capture 20, or I'll capture the difference point. Then there could be a fun little project there that could grow, or maybe I negotiate a different price. But if there's enough cushion in there, that could help drive lead gen. But it's best if you have a very big price point. The yachts is a good example because it's very expensive to rent and charter a yacht.
Mm-hmm.
And then driving leads for yacht sales is what the end point is for charter yacht rentals. They always want to get the lead, because if somebody can spend $300,000 on a charter yacht for a week, chances are they're going to have the budget to buy a yacht. And
Yeah.
so a lot of the brokers are charter yacht rental companies, but they essentially just run those as lead gen for
And do you know
for
the
sales.
do you know the blog URL where he's doing that?
Is it Impulse Corp? Hang on. Hang on. Impulse corp.com. Impulse. Darn it. Because hang on. Let me just Google his name. Borgos.
Or if I was going to say we could tell them how to Google it as well.
Yeah, it's Impulse. Yeah. Impulse IMPULSECORP.com.
Impulsecorp.com.
Right.
Okay.
And so his first blog post is whyibought.yachts.com.
Yes, I've ran across that. I think it was shared it on LinkedIn as well. If you go to LinkedIn, I'm guessing you do a search for yachts.com, you'll probably be able to find his blog. It was a pretty big hit. Well, we're at about an hour, and Peter, I am thank you so much for joining me. I got Mr. Darcy here. Was saying, should be a reoccurring guest at the minimum, because this is which I agree. Especially outside of onion season.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining me. Is there anything, and you could follow up and see more about Peter. You can see his Twitter handle there underneath him, which is Searchbound, which we didn't get a chance to talk about that much, but Searchbound is his Twitter handle. You should certainly 100% be following him on Twitter. His posts are top notch, and he's a content master, way more than I am. So thanks for coming, Peter. I look forward to having you back.
No, well, listen, congratulations for a year running these things. Shoot, running a video blog. Oh my gosh, and running your little publication for a year. It's not something I could do. So congratulations for running that and sharing all this information, because I wish we had something like this back in 2005, just to be a fly on the wall to listen to two folks just running either different options or opportunities or how they build it, because there is no right or wrong way to build some of these things. It's just try stuff, iterate, and even if it does work, see if it fits well into your lifestyle. If it doesn't, you could find something that actually works really, really well, but it doesn't fit well into your lifestyle. I've found that before, and I just sell the asset and move on to the next.
Try stuff.
I appreciate you having me on. Just
iterate.
Try stuff. Yes.
And
but thank you for having me on.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Peter. I appreciate it. And we will have Peter back on certainly in the future. Thank you all for joining me. I'm Drew Wash. This is Domain to Profit. And we are here each week trying to help you find great domain names that you can build into your projects and change your life to where, just as Peter just said, you could find it, build it out, and see if it fits with your lifestyle. See if it creates the lifestyle that you want for yourself. And all of that is possible with domains and developing domains. So hopefully you've got some great ideas, some possible domains that you're going to go pursue even this week. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. We very much appreciate your subscribes and your likes and all of your comments. Thank you for everybody that's been commenting and chatting with us. We very much appreciate it. And we will see you back here next week at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for next week's Domain to Profit. Take care.